Good morning, ladies. My voice is loud enough to, yeah. Um, it's so good to see you all this morning on this special day and special occasion that my company, we decided we needed to do it, to talk, because menopause is such a big thing among us. A lot of us are experiencing it. Some of us are getting ready for it. Some of us are in the phase, and some of us have passed it. But we don't talk about it, and especially publicly. So I've had so many patients who've come into the office, and when they start telling me this and that, and I'm saying, it's menopause. And they're like, but doc. I said, believe it or not, it is. And I think what really spurred me to decide to just do this, because it was in my mind for more than a year. I did it before online during COVID, after COVID. But I had a patient who came in. She was 41 years of age. And she said to me, doc, I am so painful. My weight. And then she started saying all these things. And she said she'd just come from her doctor. And she was telling her about it, and her doctor said to her, no, you're not going through, you're not in premenopause. That's nonsense. They don't believe that. And gave her some tablets to try to ease her problem. Anyhow, she said she went to her hairdresser like a week later. And she was telling her hairdresser about what she's going through. And the hairdresser said, girl, you sound like you in premenopause. Said, you need to go see a doctor. So she said, well, I just came from my doctor. And the doctor said, no. Anyhow, she ended up to me maybe 2 weeks later. And when she started talking, I said, my dear, your body is now preparing for menopause. You're starting to have changes. And the thing that bothers me the most is that male doctors can't tell us about it, because a man will never know what a woman feels and experience. They can only read the textbook and tell you da-da-da-da-da. But when I have female doctors who aren't able to pick it up and diagnose, to me that's so sad. So after she said that, I said, you know what? It's time to do this. We need to talk. Because a lot of women are going through issues. They don't have answers. They don't know what's going on. And I decided I will bring in the expert, because she's going to tell you a bit about her story this morning and what she had experienced. Now, for one like me, let me tell you all a bit about me. I started chemotherapy for breast cancer in January of 2010. That threw me into menopause, chemotherapy. And so my period ended November of 2009, which was a blessing, tell you the truth. But the changes that came with it, So from January of 2010, that ended that life for me. And after having chemotherapy, 6 months of chemotherapy, then of course, they had to take out my entire reproductive system. And that meant taking out everything. So my hormones stopped immediately. Then my doctor said to me, you cannot take anything that has hormones in it. So, could you imagine? I went from a girl my skin was so moist and everything was so nice and fine, to totally dry. I tell people my body is so dry. If you all know what I have to do every morning to wake this body of mine, it requires a lot. And so my body just changed, And if I didn't know what I knew about menopause, because I saw my mom go through it, I saw aunts go through it. My mom was 37 and she had a complete hysterectomy. And back then, the only thing you used to hear about was Lydia Pinkham. I don't know if you all know about that. Whoever that woman is, Lydia Pinkham. And guess what? The women in Abaco and Spanish Wells and them places bought it up by the box in cases. So the women in Nassau, it was hard to find Lydia Pinkham. That was probably the cure back then, Lydia Pinkham. But I saw her got to the point where she nearly went out of her mind, because nobody knew what was wrong. She could not sleep. many days and nights, it was just so rough. And then, of course, the men go through it, so they don't even understand. And my dad didn't. So he was irritable and grumpy, and she was ill and having her challenges. And I saw her. And then the other person that I really saw, who really went through it bad, I had an aunt. And I couldn't understand why my aunt was so miserable. I mean, she was irritable. She was miserable. And I used to be like, this woman crazy. One Saturday, she used to get up on Saturday morning and just toss the house up. Had 2 daughters, and then they had to clean up everything afterwards. I wanted this house spick and span. I mean, she was so meticulous. But one Saturday morning, I was spending the weekend with them. She was in the family room ironing, and that time she complaining and carrying on. I'm like, Lord, what is this in here this morning? And my 2 cousins were so irritable, and they trying to just, oh, mommy, mommy, mommy. And she said, I want my tea, I want my tea. They wouldn't move, so I went and made the tea. And of course, I tried to make this tea like what she wanted. So I went and I gave her the tea, and she, thank you, Ebbie, blah, blah, blah. I went back in the kitchen. Now, she was out here. This is the kitchen door. I'm standing by the kitchen door. And just like the Holy Spirit said to me, move. And when I moved, she took that cup of tea and she just flinged that back in the kitchen. And she said, you girls know that's not how I like my tea. That's not, and I'm saying this woman is crazy. Now, when I think back, I understand why my uncle used to get up early and just go. He never used to hang around. He used to be gone all day. And nobody wanted to be around her. And she was just, but there was no kind of treatment back then. Doctors could not diagnose. So those women went through hell. And a lot of them suffered in silence and just didn't know what to do, and they didn't have help. Now, one of the biggest challenges is the lack of sleep. Oh, when my time came, I said, Lord, you know I need to sleep. I can't be like my mother. I have cousins who watch the sun come up and watch it go down. They don't even sleep. And thank God, I used to sleep 7 hours. I'm down to 5, and I am grateful for my 5. My sister don't sleep. I say, well, you keep that to you. But I could go to sleep and get it. And don't care what time I go to bed. When you see that 5 hours end, I am up. So I got to make sure I plan that to go at a certain time so I don't get up too early or whatever. But so these are just some of the challenges. Now, menopause has more than 50 plus symptoms. And some women don't experience any. But, you know, I remember this person said to me, I had that, I knew, but they were miserable too. And that's probably part of the problem. They didn't realize. They didn't have all the physical symptoms, but they were miserable and irritable. So I was like, yeah, you may not have gone through what we're going through, but, you know. So I said it was important to just bring women together and talk about this, ask questions, get information. And then at the back, we have displays set up. We're going to leave here with some nice goodies today and information. And there are some ladies who are also selling the jewelry and different things at the back. So feel free after the talk to go to the back. We'll just go up here as opposed to going out. And view the displays in the back there and support the ladies as best you can. I'm looking for my main speaker, Lady Patrice, because I don't want to do too much talking. I could talk all day. Okay, well, let me start. Menopause and eyes, because people wondering, why is an eye care facility putting on a talk on menopause? But people don't realize that the entire body is connected from head to toe. And you could be having symptoms and not realizing it's coming from the eye or it's coming from some other part of the body. But some of the main causes that you see with women who are going through menopause, and when they show up for an eye exam, they complain about dryness. Eyes are constantly dry or irritated. And then some of them, they have severe inflammation. Now, women who are going through autoimmune diseases, like lupus and those type diseases, they're going to have inflammation. So that inflammation could show up in the eyes, it could show up in your joints, it could show up anywhere. but a lot of them present with eye problems. And the inflammation is the internal part of the eye. So these persons have to be managed for glaucoma, for eye diseases on a constant, regular basis because there's no cure for it. So they have to be managed and treated on a constant basis, and we put them on certain medications to help keep them stable because there is no cure. You find a lot of women, once they get into menopause, one of the biggest things that show up is autoimmune disease, inflammation, and a lot of it is due to the foods that we eat. Now, for us as women too, you find a lot of edema of the lid. Your eyes look puffy, right? Wake up in the morning and the eyes are puffy. And then we start to get the crow feet after a certain age too. And these are changes that are going to occur because as we age, our muscles tend to weaken. And as they weaken, nerve degeneration also start to set in. So muscles tend to lose its elasticity. Now I have a lot of patients who don't want to wear glasses and just like to squint, squint, squint all day. And guess what? While you're squinting all day, you're weakening these muscles. So you see a lot of these people with wrinkles, okay? Wrinkles all the time. And they wonder, why I'm getting wrinkles? Because you're squinting. If you're squinting, eventually the muscles are going to weaken, loosen the elasticity, and you will end up with a lot of wrinkles. So either you decide to wear your glasses or you decide to preserve your skin and lid tissue. So around this area, lid edema, and you find if you consume a lot of sugar or salty items, you're going to get edema, especially as we age. So and then too, of course, alcohol. So if you drink these or consume these things later on in the evening and you go to bed, you're going to wake up with puffy lids, puffy face and different things. So we have to be quite concerned about what we consume, unfortunately. Now, I was a person who loved sweets. I still do. It's my challenge. And of course, going through cancer, that's one of the first things they tell you to minimize. I also run marathons, so I have to eat carbs in order to sustain myself. I don't need food, but give me the sweets. I could eat them all day. And as a result, it has affected me. I find now if I eat stuff with sugar, I wake up painful. You know, if I don't eat it, I feel better. But if I consume sweet, and especially later on in the evening, I wake up in the morning painful. So sugar and salt are two products that really affect our bodies and our skin. So we have to pay attention to that. When we move in towards menopause, lifestyle is a major issue for us. I tell patients, what you put in your mouth and exercise are two key elements that you have to pay attention to as you age. I remembered my mom. I used to look at her skin and I say, boy, mommy, I can stay working out because I don't want my skin to look like yours. I've been working out all my life and my skin look just like hers, so my mommy worse down. So I have to laugh and smile to myself because no matter what, aging takes its toll on us. But we have to do what we could do. Exercise is crucial and important, ladies. What we put in our mouth and exercise are two things we could control. The rest we have to trust God and trust the process. So I tell women, you must exercise every day. And you don't even have to go outside to do it. Sit in the chair, get up. Do 20, 30 of them, whatever. Bend over, find means and find ways. And then, of course, we have to strength train, okay? Take the cream can and start with them. Then move to the 5-pound sugar. Start with that. But if you don't have weights, then you don't have to go out and get a trainer or do this and that. You just find what you have at home and begin to exercise your bodies. Now, I tell young ladies, you better start putting in the dividends now. Because when the time comes, it becomes a struggle. It's not easy to just get up and exercise. It's not easy to do it. and you find your body becomes weaker, your energy level depletes, and you just don't have the desire for it. So if you don't make it a part of your lifestyle, you are going to struggle. Now, for ladies, I tell them when it comes to your skin, you have to start to invest in yourself. You need moisturizers. You need sunscreen. You need things to help with your physical self because the skin is the biggest organ. It's exposed to most of the elements, and especially the sun. The sun, and we live in a country whereby we're exposed to sunlight more than almost 365 days of the year. And even if the sun is not out, the UV from the sun, we're experiencing that. So we have to protect. So you have to get moisturizer. I tell ladies, find something for the lid. There are moisturizers out there for your lids. And a lot of places now have them fairly reasonable because when these things first came out, they were much more costly, but now you can find things all over. In Japan, this gentleman was there for a period of time, and he said he noticed everybody looked so young. And these people were in their 80s, 90s, I don't know, some were 100, and he could not understand it. So when he did his research, he found that they consumed a lot of hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is a product that provides moisture internally to the skin and body. And so now you notice if you go in these stores and look for items, what you see? Hyaluronic. Now I say now, some of them may not have hyaluronic. Everybody's selling hyaluronic. They may just put it. But look for products that have hyaluronic acid in it, especially for your face and skin, okay? Because that helps to hydrate. And of course, collagen is important. That helps to hydrate. And some other products. But for your skin, you need a good moisturizer. When you go outside, you need to put moisture on your skin on a regular basis and things like that. Are you ready? Okay. I'm going to introduce our main menopause speaker today, Lady Menopause Patrice Lockwood. And she also brought with her a chef who specializes in foods that are related to menopause. And I'm just going to ask Chef Riley to stand up because she will be our second presenter, okay? And I will be introducing her. But our first lady is Lady Patrice Lockwood, and just let me read a little bit about her. She's a pioneer in women's health, education, and recognized leader in menopause advocacy across the Bahamas, the Caribbean, and internationally. She's the first certified menopause wellness coach in the Bahamas and the Caribbean, certified through the Menopause Movement UK, and the founder of Menopause Survival Care and CEO of Shadia Health. She's mentored and supported countless women across the Bahamas, Caribbean, and the United States. Her work focuses on breaking the silence, stigma, and misinformation surrounding menopause, particularly within cultures and systems where menopause has historically been ignored or misunderstood. In October of 2024, Patrice successfully led the Bahamas' first ever official Menopause Awareness Day and Menopause T-shirt Day, resulting in a proclamation by our Prime Minister. Some of our recognition: organization OAS, leadership of the nation acknowledging menopause as a critical women's health issue. Her work has also been featured in Africa, Women on Top magazine, Caribbean Collective magazine, Essence.com. She's a featured guest on podcasts across the US, Canada, UK, and Caribbean, and she's the author of Menopause to Metamorphosis. What? Menopause Journey, a mother's reflection for her daughter. Okay? Ladies, let's put our hands together and welcome Miss Patrice Lockwood.
Good morning. Let me make sure okay, let me follow all the instructions I got up there. I'm pressing it. I don't see the red button. I don't. Please forgive me. I'm learning this new technology here. And she's coming to help me with this. But as she comes to help me, let me just tell you a bit. You've heard a bit about me, but let me tell you about my why. Years ago, I went into I started to experience sleep issues for about a, yes, for about a year. I was having, now I like to move about, and I'm already starting to, for a year, I was having sleep issues. This year turned into 6 weeks of me sleeping for an hour to under an hour. This 6 weeks then turned into 3 days and 3 nights without a wink of sleep. And when I say without a wink, I'm not saying, oh, I fell asleep for 5 minutes. No, I watched the sun go up. I watched it go down. I watched it come up. I watch it come down. I watch it come up. I watch it come down with not a wink of sleep. I cannot describe what that experience was like. And at that time, I was going through personal issues, dealing with stress. And a family member literally had to come and take me into a home to care for me. And she worked at the Rand Hospital, and she is a lab technician. And when I got to the point, I remember it was like the third day that evening or morning, she looked at me and she said, Patrice, do you understand what happens when you stop sleeping? And she was looking me dead in the eye. And she wanted my attention. She said, your organs are going to start shutting down. And at this point, all kind of things were happening with my body. I couldn't explain. I didn't know what was going on. I felt helpless. 8 years, for 8 long years, I dealt with severe menopausal symptoms. And I went to 8 doctors in Nassau and in Grand Bahama. No one told me that I was perimenopausal. I also had, at one point, an incident where they suspected I had a heart attack. And I went through a lot of tests, and eventually they were able to rule out heart attack. I went through a lot. And when I learned I was menopausal, it was an awakening for me because I was praying. I was begging God. I thought I was going to die. I mean, everything was happening with no doctor able to help me, and I was going to doctors. My why? After I learned I was menopausal and that there was nobody else helping women, I decided that I was going to be the one to help the women in this country. Jesus, and I hate when I cry. Jeez. It still becomes very fresh when I talk about it because the experience was real. When I was having the heart palpitations and couldn't sleep, I used to play John Hagee's 3 Hours of Prayer, then Creflo Dollar. That was 6 hours. Then this lady, you sang this song, sickness and disease, you can't have your way. God is the healing running through my veins, and no bad report could take my joy away, because God, you're the healing running through my veins. I played that, and that kept me every night. I couldn't sleep. But my why? I wanted to be an answer so that what I went through, the women in my country didn't have to go through. And so I chose to study menopause in the UK, and I chose to do that because the UK has been so far advanced with menopause, and I wanted to align myself with the top technology, as well as, for me, I'm connected with menopause health practitioners and coaches all around the world, and I'm one of the first actually Blacks that has been certified initially. And there was a research that I read when I was studying, and it talked about the English-speaking women in the Caribbean and how there was no help, there was no education, etc. And that really motivated me. And for me, when I watched that and I was reading it, it helped me to, I began to say, Lord, that's my mommy, that's my auntie, those my cousins they talking about. And so I wanted to be that change. So I'm on a mission to help women in the Bahamas and the Caribbean, to educate them, to help with policies that need to be implemented, as well as putting in place wellness infrastructures. Menopause, oh boy, that's tiny. Menopause is a metamorphosis for a woman. And like a caterpillar that goes into a cocoon, it is at that point you are between who you were and who you are becoming. In this session, my goal is to help you understand menopause, the whys, help you to understand what is talked about and thought about, and not to introduce you to andropause here. And my goal is to come alongside you as women to help you on this menopausal journey, because so much of our symptoms, we are the cause of it. But because we haven't been taught, we don't know. A little history on menopause. In 1821, a French physician termed the term menopause. And during the mid-19th century, medical interest in menopause increased during that time. Now, I wrote a book called Menopause as Metamorphosis. I suggest every woman get this book. I became very curious about why no one was talking about menopause when I began. And research what I learned, and I did a history from ancient times. Ancient times, menopausal women, and it wasn't called menopause, they were looked at as and respected as spiritual leaders, matriarchs, etc. And it wasn't until the 15th century where Hippocrates, who is the father of medicine, he and doctors had termed menopause as a disease that happened to women. And it is interesting, from the 15th century, and I trace it down, at one point, and they thought something was wrong with a woman's ovaries. Then we went into another time period where it was looked at that menopause made women go crazy. So women were always put in mental asylums and thought that menopause, this time in their life because they couldn't have children, they became depressed. Then we have another time, and it's so interesting when you look at the timeline of how menopause was looked at through history. There is a book called Femme Forever. I think it was written in 1891. I reference it in my book, where menopause was looked at as literally a disease that a woman couldn't get rid of. And so throughout the ages, in my book, I go through the history until 2025, how we look at it. But in 1930, menopause was described as a deficiency disease, and therapies and we use testicular juice and crushed ovaries of animals were used. Can you imagine that? Crushed ovaries and testicles of animals. Around 1938, synthetic estrogen was developed. And then in 1970s, the medicalization of menopause was completed, and symptoms were described as estrogen deficiency, and HRT was hailed as the savior and the ultimate for middle-aged women. Fact: 99% of the women in this country enter the menopausal transition clueless. They don't have a clue as to what's going to happen to them and the changes that they will go through physically, emotionally, and mentally. Fact: every year, over 3,000 women in this country enter the transition. Fact: 9 out of 10 women say their mothers did not tell them about menopause. How many of you, your mother sat down and told you about menopause? 1, 2, very good. 3. We have some more. Listen, when I went into this and I learned it was menopause and I went to my mom couldn't tell me anything. And I wanted to know what was the secret? Why was it such a secret? But we'll talk some more about that. And I talk about it because we are living a legacy of what was passed on to us as women from back in the day. When you understand how women were treated and how they were dealt with in the past as relates to menopause, you understand why it was hidden, why they didn't want to talk about it. In the medical field, were predominantly men. They didn't understand it. And I'm going to share some things later on where science says now they understand what was going on with women because of a female neuroscientist. Another fact: during the menopause years, over 60% of divorces are initiated between women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s in the menopausal transition. Most women enter into midlife with so much going on. And I'm going to give you a description of what the menopausal woman looks like. And a woman's body during this time is going through hormonal changes. And a lot of women say these changes take them hostage and they don't feel normal anymore. Let me paint a picture of what is going on, because I know we live the hero life as Caribbean women, we have to be strong. But let me read to you some of what's going on. And, oh boy, saying this. Because of the fluctuation of hormones, the majority of menopausal women struggle with midlife weight gain. Am I all alone? Okay. Many women feel unattractive. Many wrestle with self-esteem. Many women don't know what is happening. Many don't, and because it's uncharted waters, they're very unprepared. And many women, of course, like we said, their mothers didn't sit down and talk to them about menopause. Women are not aware that the menopausal transition can have damaging effects on your relationships. I'm going to talk about that because I hear it and I see it. I have to speak with men as well as women. Many women don't know that menopause affects your brain, it affects the vagina, it affects your emotions, it affects your mental state. Added to all of this woman is going through. During these time of hormonal changes, some women are dealing with loss of loved ones. Some have responsibility for caring for elderly parents. Some are dealing with empty nest syndrome. Many of the relationships, the marriage relationships, or their relationships with their significant other, they're struggling. Many relationships have ended because of menopause. Some are carrying the weight of their children while they're going through, and women are also dealing with aging issues. All of this, and I know we are the strong woman who can handle anything, but this is a picture of the menopausal women. Menopause is a very sensitive time for women, and we don't do ourselves justice. Menopause is a natural transition in a woman's life. It's not a disease. You are not broken. It's not a medical condition. It is a natural transition that God has designed for us as women to go through. Just how you came into this world as a little girl, then you were a baby, then you went into being a toddler, then a little girl, and you kept going on, and there are phases. God has preordained that time for you as a woman to end your reproductive cycle. But because a lot has now to do with our lifestyle that Dr. Jackson spoke about. And what is also, what's happening is a woman's estrogen levels are declining. And the estrogen hormone is what makes us a woman. In particular, a very powerful hormone called estradiol, but we'll go into that. Here's the reality. Menopause impacts women physically, emotionally, and mentally. I want to stop here because we're in a church, and one of the things that I've found is that the church women, let me give you the example that I had. I had a lady who does praise and worship, very involved in church, very respected, going through menopause. Menopause was impacting her both mentally and emotionally. And because of this, she was hiding it. And she would call me when she would get into these times of difficulty. And then she would say, "This only the devil, this only the devil, this only the devil." So I would say to her, "Listen, you need to book a consultation with me. Let me put together a protocol for you. You can be helped." She wouldn't until she got into a severe crisis. And her mom had come to the house, and they were praying for her, casting out demons when she was menopausal. And so many times in the church, my people perish for lack of. They're casting out demons. While this woman, God made her spirit, soul, and body, and there were other parts of her that needed to be dealt with. Needless to say, eventually, at that point, she ended up coming to me, and I helped her balance her hormones, and she's in the finance industry, and because she has a lot on her, she was very triggered. And I remember one year afterwards, she came to me, she said, "Patrice, we had a difficult closing during the Christmas time. I feel my stuff, my symptoms coming on. I need my protocol again. I will never, ever allow that to happen to me." So she went back on a protocol because she began to listen to her body. And I teach women to listen to your body. Stop saying it came out of nowhere no. The body is intelligent. It's an internal intelligence system. Menopause, there are 3 phases of menopause. The first phase is called perimenopause. Perimenopause happens 8 to 10 years before a woman stops bleeding. Most of us don't even know when our body kick into that phase. Here's what happens. And I'm going to use Dr. Jackson as the example today because she looks so pretty in her pink. When Dr. Jackson got into puberty, which is the opposite of menopause. Puberty is the beginning of the reproductive transition. Menopause is the ending. So when Dr. Jackson went into puberty, there was a hormone called estradiol. It looked in Dr. Jackson's egg basket, and every little girl that comes into this world, we come into this world with what I call a basket of eggs, millions. But by the time Dr. Jackson got to being puberty, estradiol looked in her basket and said, okay, doc. Well, estradiol knew he was going to be a doctor too, so it called you doc. Doc? And doc was only about, 11, 12, around that time. Estradiol looked in her basket and said, okay, doc, it's going to be a sin and a shame if I let you go back to God with all these eggs. I need to help you use these eggs. And so estradiol said to Doc, but Doc was so busy this day playing hopscotch on the outside, she wasn't paying attention. Estradiol said, now I'm only going to be here for a while to help you use up all these eggs. Average about 33 years. So I'm going to help you use these eggs. So Doc began to grow breasts. She began to have pubic hair. Her shape changed because her body was getting ready for reproduction, and Doc began to have a period. That's the beginning of our reproductive stage. And every month, this hormone would help Doc have a period. And so she was using up, and has been, as all of us, been using up our supply of eggs. Now, when Doc got to 8 to 10 years prior to her period stopping, she went into this perimenopause. And a lot of us don't even know when our bodies kick into that phase. I only recognize mine. I was doing one of my sessions. And when the lecturer was speaking, I remembered about 40 or 41. I remembered my period, because my period 3 days, consistently, for years. Nothing changed. Until about 40, 41, I remember my period changed. It began to move from like the beginning, like to the middle. It began to creep. And I was like, oh, that's different. That's strange. I didn't know that. And that was the only thing that happened. What my body did was it went into the menopausal transition. I went into perimenopause. That normally happens in the 40s, early 40s. And that's when our hormones begin the fluctuation. Around 35 or so, you have a hormone called progesterone. That's called the pregnancy hormone. That's the hormone every time you have a period, begging you to get pregnant, get pregnant, get pregnant, get pregnant. Give me something to do, give me something to do. That's the progesterone hormone. That begins to decline for us around 35. But it's around the early 40s that we begin this estradiol begins to decline. When she begins to decline, now estradiol is like women. Day she up, the next moment she down, she all over the place. So she could be all over the place. Okay, so that's what happens, and that's why you have, today you could wake up in perimenopause, you here, the hormones here. 10 minutes, you're down here. 5 minutes from here, you're here. And so that's why I was doing an interview, and a male was interviewing me. And in this room was all males because he was interviewing a group of men. So the gentleman, when they listened to the interview on TV, he said his son was complaining about the mummy. 1 minute, mummy nice. The next minute, she all over the place. And he had to explain to the son, listen, mommy going through something, so let's work with mommy. But that's what's going on, and I'll explain a little bit more. Then the next phase of menopause is called, the next phase of the menopausal transition is called menopause. Menopause only happens after you've had 12 full months of not bleeding. Then you are officially medically in menopause. Now, let me just say, because I've met someone who stopped bleeding for 17 months and then started bleeding again. I've also met someone who stopped bleeding for 2 years and started again. Now, let me tell you what happens. There's something called menopausal baby. Now, it doesn't happen to everybody, but this is how you could see a 50-something-year-old woman get pregnant. What happens is you've used up all of your eggs, but sometimes for some women, there's 1 or 2 stubborn eggs still determined. And so, like, I had a session last year. There was a lady in my session, 65 years old, and still having a period. And she wanted to know if something was wrong with her. I'm like, no, you are fine. You still have eggs. And as long as you have eggs, you will have a period. When your body is an internal intelligence system that God has created. And when you finish, you finish. Nothing wrong with you. There was also another lady from San Salvador who stopped bleeding at 70. We have anomalies, believe me, we have anomalies and they do exist, but average is the 33-year span that we have eggs that we use. Now, some may have a little more, some may have a little less, but that's the average span. Here in the Bahamas, women usually go into menopause between 51 and 54 years of age. That's the average. Caucasians tend to end a little later, Caucasian women. There's a research that shows that Black women in America and Latino women tend to end around 49. There are different statistics based on where you are, your culture, the way you eat, etc. Now, the last stage of the menopausal transition is called post-menopause, and that's the years after menopause has happened. And the average age, like I said, we go into that is around 51 to 58, which is the global standard. And this is when your body is getting used to no hormones. I usually use an example. Let's say this is a glass of water. Before menopause, you had a glass full of estrogen that your body has been working with all your years. Then when you go into perimenopause, that glass of estrogen begin to go down, okay? And then when you get, and it goes down to, I say 3/4, then a 1/2 cup of estrogen, a 1/4 cup of estrogen, and then when I get on E, you are in menopause. When that happens, the body then has to now adjust to not having this powerful form of estrogen that's been helping the brain function, that's been helping the skin to work, that's been helping your vagina, that's been helping so many parts of you, that's been helping the muscles, the joints, etc. Estrogen is a powerful power force in a woman's body. Research shows that the average age that we stop having menopausal symptoms is around 65. That's globally. Here, from I started, I've had to deal with a lot of women in their late 60s and even into their 70s with menopausal symptoms. And again, we trigger a lot of our menopausal symptoms. Now, let me go over some of the symptoms for you. And this is, for my menopausal eyes, this can be interesting. But a lot of what women think is age-related is directly because of menopause. And that's the news that really needs to get out. Because that estradiol, the functions that she has helped with in your body, because she has gone from full tank to 1/2 to 3/4 half, 1/4 down to nothing, the various functions of the body will be impacted. But you have more control over your menopausal journey than you think. Here's some of them: hot flashes and night sweats, fatigue, dizziness, loss of libido, don't have no sex drive anymore for some women, or some it's decreased. Mood swing. Nobody in here have mood swings. Irritability, hair loss. A lot of women, estrogen keeps our hair in its growing phase. And so a lot of women tend to start have receding, lose hair around here. Some have male pattern baldness. The hair becomes thin. Estrogen keeps our hair in its growing phase, and then our collagen begins to decline. But we'll talk some more about that. Weight gain. Jesus. Oh, oh. I've had people tell me the funniest one was a lady from Freeport. She was so frustrated. She was into health all her life. She said, I'm exercising. I'm starving myself. Literally, women literally do that. They're exercising, they're starving themselves, they're doing everything, and yet they're putting on weight. Hormonal weight gain is very different from weight gain from foods. I had a time in my life where in 1 week I put on 10 pounds. I didn't understand. Let me tell you something. Now, you know how we go, right? I put on Monday, I was one weight. By Saturday, I was another weight. I'm like, some mojo happening here, somebody doing something. You know how we go when we start thinking, because that's not normal. And I met another lady that happened to, I had a client, hers was 20 pounds. Stress, we don't understand what our lifestyle is doing to us. But I wanted to make sure, talk about that. The next thing, palpitations. You're dying and you're going to heaven. You're sure you're going to heaven. You're going, you have so many EKGs and ECGs, and the doctor saying nothing wrong with you, but listen, the doctor don't understand you dying. That time your heart going crazy. How can I get a testimony here? All kind of EKGs and second opinions. Then, and let me just say this here. Palpitations, that was the first thing I helped myself with after I understood I was menopausal, perimenopausal. I learned, and I was already in the natural health field, I learned that potassium regulates the heart. Let me tell you something, that I was my first guinea pig. And this was before I studied, because there was no one who helped me, and I had to find answers for myself. My son used to laugh at me. I would say I'm going shopping, and one time he was on the phone. He was telling a friend, I just come in. I had a big thing of bananas. I'd gone to the boat. And my natural inclination is to do it naturally. Listen here. In the middle of the night, when a palpitation would come, I would have 4, 5, 6, 7 bananas. And I promise you, as sure as the sun rise and set, the heart rate regulates. I thought that was crazy. And I talk about that because a lot of women have said they've heard me talk about it on the radio or television, and they've done it and it works. Listen, we suffer just from lack of knowledge, understanding how this body works. Your body's not broken. Menopause is not a disease. Another, we talked about the palpitation, the bloating. One of the things that happens, the imbalance of the hormones directly affects our gut microbiome. I work with women to help their microbiome balance, and these women end up dealing with a lot of acid reflux, bloating, gas, everything. A lot of women deal with that. The next one is the headaches. That headache, menopause, and I'll show you why. Tinnitus. How many of you know what that is? That ringing in. That one, I'm sure, is from the devil. Listen here. I had the ringing in my ears for about a year, but it was light. But there was one point I had it for about 5 months, loud. And I was able to, I got so good at it that there was two sets of ringing, and I could lay down and I could identify the ringing. And you lay down to sleep. Nobody hearing this sound, but you hearing this ringing, and then there's nothing you could do. That's called tinnitus, and there's been a lot of research, and a lot of research is being done to try and figure out why the auditory system is being impacted by the decline of hormones. Then, bladder weakness. You got a lot of women say, nothing ever happened to me with menopause and whatnot. But they the same women, before you could sit at your desk and you could work because you're busy. Now, the minute your bladder says, I need to go, you have to jump up and you got to run and you have to go use that bathroom. And let's be real, by the time you get to the toilet seat and you start taking off, you already start having an accident. Can I have a witness in the house? Okay. Ladies, that's called menopause, your pelvic floor. We'll talk about that too. Memory lapse. Nobody in here has ever gone into one room, then standing up, trying to figure out what I come in here for. Nobody, only me. Or worse, I was doing some work, so I was looking at my glasses. I had the glasses here. I looked all over for the glasses. Then I went to my son. You see my glasses? I was frustrated. I had it up here, but frustrated. My son looked at me. There's your glasses. I was so shaken. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, or you on the phone and you digging in your bag looking for the phone. Listen here, menopause is real and how it impacts our brain. Memory lapse, itchy skin, like Doc said. Estrogen is so important for lubrication in our body. Women have not only the dry eyes, dry mouth, the skin, it becomes itchy for some women. The vagina becomes very dry, and there is help for that. Nausea, joint pain, prior to 40. And I like to tease women because, hey, we all know about this. There was a time you got up out of bed and you were able to be like a spring chicken. You spring out of bed. Then one morning you get up and all of a sudden the back or the knee or the leg acting funny. You're in that menopausal transition. And I'll explain why. Anxiety, brittle nails, digestive problems, urinary incontinence. There are women who just wet up themselves. And that is a reality. They just wet up themselves. There are women who are leaking urine and have to be wearing pads or depends. Some women have to, they have fecal leaking. And not being able to control it, I'm talking about. This is real. And we hide these issues. Low mood, urinary tract infection, the UTI, a lot of postmenopausal deal with it because the estrogen keeps the environment of our vagina the opposite of acidic. Alkaline. Menopause. It keeps our vagina actually in the state it's in because it protects us. And when the estrogen declines, you don't have that protection anymore for a lot of women. So bacteria is an infection. It's so easy for a woman to have UTI. And I often tell women when I'm dealing with them and their husbands, it's so important for you to, before you have intercourse, to clean yourself, after to clean yourself, and even to have your husband do the same. Not because anybody's dirty, but because you don't have that protection that you once had. So it makes it easy for you to have a UTI. Vaginal dryness, difficulty concentrating, osteoporosis and osteopenia, emotional changes, depression, aching muscles, tender breasts, heavy periods, skin changes, panic attack, irregular periods, insomnia. That's the next one from the devil. Some women find that they begin to have hair under here or between here. Testosterone levels go up. For some women, the testosterone levels go down. There's a number of reasons, and all of these are hormonal. Menopause is more than just a reproductive transition. This is where I want you to really take this in. Menopause is also a transition for your brain. Learning how to protect your brain is crucial. This picture here is taken of a menopausal, a woman before menopause. Look at her brain and look at how after her brain looks. Dr. Lisa Mosconi is the first neuroscientist who took menopause and what women were saying seriously, and she began the study of looking at the brain in a woman's brain to look and see what is happening. It is amazing what our brain goes through, and I'll talk some more about that. Research shows that 61% of women suffer anxiety during perimenopause. 61%. And this can last anywhere from a few weeks to 12 years. This is what research has trailed has been happening. Unfortunately, again, and I say this because in our country, culturally, we look down at someone when they're dealing with mental or emotional issues. Coming into menopause, I've had a different respect to understanding this stuff. But the good thing is our brain can equalize at the end of the day. Research has been showing that. If you're dealing with hot flashes and night sweats, if you're dealing with nausea, dizziness, headaches, the cold hand and cold feet, there's a part of your brain that's being impacted why this happens. It's called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a part of your brain that regulates temperature. And when the brain gets a signal, it's getting an incorrect signal, and it's responding. Now, let me just say about hormones. Estradiol that I talked about, it's called a hormone. Hormones are chemical messengers that send messages throughout your body. And they are big wigs. And if this hormone sends a wrong message, then your body is going to respond to it. Like a woman having a hot flash. When you have a hot flash, your brain gets a message that you are in crisis, you are hot, and you need to cool down. So your brain goes into like an emergency mode and then sends this message, and the blood vessels open, blood rushes through the vein, and that's what's called a hot flash. And then a lot of women have the sweating with it. The brain is getting incorrect signals. And of course, the hormones are up and down, etc. The next part of your brain, if you are a woman dealing with the mood changes, anxiety, irritability, depression, sadness, lack of motivation, panic attack, aggressiveness, all of that stuff, you're crying. 1 minute, I had one lady, couple of them, and the hardest for some women is the crying. I've had women who say to me, I don't cry. I haven't cried from a child. I am all over the place weeping for no reason. There's a part of our brain called the amygdala. This part is responsible for regulating your emotions. And when that part of the brain isn't receiving the support that it's been getting from, again, when you were younger, when estradiol kicked in, that's why, you're always on top of your game. Estradiol also help your brain to function and these various parts of the brain. And when they're not getting the support, then this is the kind of thing that can happen. The amygdala that's responsible for regulating emotions, your emotions could be out of hair. That's why your poor husbands, And the people at work, be nice to them, okay? The next part of the brain that's impacted is called the hippocampus. That's the memory center of the brain. For those of you dealing with brain fog, memory loss, forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating, difficulty with clear thinking, that's because this part of the brain is screaming, where is my estradiol? Where is my estradiol? I need your help. I need help. But remember what I said. From you went into perimenopause, that your tank of estradiol has been going down. And for many of you, you are in postmenopause. So you are an E. And learning how to support your body is also very important. The next part of the brain that's being impacted for many women is the stem of the brain. That's the part that's responsible for sleep and wake. So many of you who are sleeping and having sleep disruption, it's that part of the brain that's being impacted. When I began, there was no research in the country. And so one of the things that has been my goal and I'm doing is doing research. I did 3 groups of women. One was 30, one was about 20, something 28, 29, 26, and 2 groups like that. I did what I wanted to do, even though I learned what I learned. One of the things that when I studied menopause was that there was so much data on Caucasian women. And I remember in one of my sessions, you know, where they were speaking, and I'm thinking, but I'm black, you know. And what was important to me was to discover what works for us in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. And so I did a research, and I put something on Facebook. I wanted women who had severe hot flashes, etc., and menopausal symptoms. And I wanted them, the goal was they were going to take this maca root product, this maca root powder for 30 consecutive days. And when they signed up, they filled out a survey form. And there were women were having 25 hot flashes in one day. It is crazy when I look at that. We have a serious issue, but we don't understand we're triggering it. But I remember when I did the first group of 30 women, they were from Nassau, Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, women from all over the Bahamas was a part of it. And what I did was, after they filled out the survey form, we had an agreement. They would tell me any changes that happened in their body, small or large, and I would document it. And so every day, I would send out to each of them, don't forget to take your maca root powder. Did you take it today? And what they did, they took it. And what they were doing was they reported back to me. There were days I would get the same report, Eleuthera, Grand Bahama, Nassau. Now, I did not put them in a group together, so no one knew what the other was telling me. So I was just documenting. I had women who would, after 7 days, which was incredible to me, they'd say, my hot flashes, it's slowing down or it's stopped. Some 7, some 15, some 28, throughout. Then I did that 2 other times with different groups of women. And there were 5 predominant things that I was able to document with these groups of women. The hot flashes. What maca root did was it, for 90, I would say about 97, 98% of the women within a month, in that 1 month time, their hot flashes subsided. I had a few where they had to take it like 5 and 6 weeks afterwards, but they were fine. And I was able to document this stuff as I went along. Then we found that women who, I'm trying to remember all of them. Women said they were able to sleep. Women had energy. A lot of women said they got their energy back because they were dealing with the fatigue. One lady called me, and this is what she said. She was having issues with her and her husband. She had lost her sex drive, and I was working with her. When I pick up the phone, here's what she said: I got my libido back! I got my libido back! She was so excited because her and her husband were having issues, and I deal with this. This is a real issue. And we have husbands who don't understand, and that's why you saw something about andropause. I also talk about andropause when I do the husband and wife presentations for churches. Because as much as a woman is lost, so is the husband. And I tell women we need to be understanding with them as well. Because I just had another client, her husband was just up to here with her. And this stuff, one was thinking his wife was having an affair. I mean, you get all of these stuff, and it's real. I have a number of women, their relationships ended. Literally, the man couldn't deal with them, with what they were going through. And again, because initially there was no language to articulate this phase and this season. So a woman also was having a hard time trying to figure out what was going on with her. But the macaroon powder, I can tell you, and I put all my clients and persons on this macaroon powder. And here's why macaroon is so good. Macaroon has what's called phytoestrogen, plant estrogen. And when it goes into our bodies, it acts like our estrogen. So it kind of like fills up the tank of estrogen again, okay? Macaroon powder is so good. Now, I tell women, if you have cancer, you do not take macaroon. You take something called chargangano. And all that I'm talking about, we have in the back there. So I may just be going through them, but macaroon powder. This will help fill back up your cup. Another issue I want to talk about. There are so many women feeling like they're going crazy. And you can understand why, because you see how it impacts the brain. I met this lady who came to one of my sessions. She heard me on the radio. She walked to the session. She couldn't find her eye. She said, "You're the first person I've ever heard describe what I'm going through. The doctors think I'm going crazy." And by this point, she had begun to accept it. And she's a teacher. Very educated woman, the whole 9 yards. But there was no language to describe. She was going to the doctors. And I put her, after the session, we spoke, and I put her on ashwagandha. And I put her on ashwagandha because her brain needed support at this point. Ashwagandha helps the brain as the brain is going through this change. Our brain literally, science shows that there are a lot of pathways that are destroyed, and we have new neural paths that are created in the brain that causes us to be wise, that causes, there's so many things, how many of you know about Melanie? We Don't Care, We Don't Care Club? Okay. The reason why that happens is because estrogen makes us nurturing. And, because we're nurturing, we're taking care of the husband, we're taking care of the children, we're taking care of the baby, we're taking care of the dog, we're taking care of everybody. But when that estrogen say, "We on E?" Listen. I saw something, shows this lady cleaning up, doing everything before menopause. And by the time she gets to menopause, she's like, "Why am I the only one doing this? Would it hurt somebody to help?" We become different, not because you are difficult. It's a physiological change that's happening in us. And we tend to go more inward in taking care of ourselves. And that's by God makes no mistakes, because we give and we give. And it's during this time, too, I find in this post-menopause, women want to do things they always wanted to do, they've dreamt about, etc. God is all wise. So the ashwagandha, and one of the things the ashwagandha does is that it helps to lower cortisol. And let me just talk about this stress hormone. The reason why so many women put on weight, first of all, carbs is not our friend. Our bodies have changed and it's different. You have a new biology, so you need to deal with your body differently. The way our bodies assimilated carbs doesn't happen anymore. The collagen decline, and I will talk some more about that. Even the enzymes in the gut, you don't have what you used to have. The brain changes, the skin changes, all of this. But what we do is we continue to live the same that we have lived before, eating the same way, acting the same way, when this new biology says, no, 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 you need to do things a bit different. So, stress. We have sitting on top of our kidneys two being like glands called adrenal glands. These adrenal glands, they produce what's called cortisol and adrenaline. Let me give you my example. When I stopped sleeping, I told you about when I stopped sleeping, and no one was able to help me. When I came here, Dr. Gay gave me this book, told me to go read this book, Ageless by Susan Summers. And because I understood what was going on, I went to Dr. Gay. I said, Dr. Gay, I want every hormone in my body checked. Every last one. He looked at me and said, we don't do that here in the Bahamas. He said, I'm going to have to send it away. I said, I don't care. I want to check. I don't care. I'll pay anything to get it checked. When my results came back, what was happening was my cortisol level was out past the roof. So I couldn't sleep. One of the things that had happened during that time, I went to this German place and they put me on this thing where they were monitoring me. And when they hooked me up, the lady was saying, I need you to relax. I'm like, I'm relaxed? She said, no, you're not. The thing was just going crazy. So they left me in this room, turn on the music, the spa music, turn on the lights for 40 minutes, an hour. And then they came back, hooked me back up. And it was doing the same. She said, are you relaxed? So she did what she did, and she gave me this big brown, and she said, take this to your doctor immediately. She said, it's like your body's running, you're running a marathon. And what had happened was my cortisol level, the stress hormone, and I was going through so much stress at that time, was so high. And that when you talk about cortisol and adrenaline, that's the fight or flight hormone. There's no way you could sleep if that's pumping in your body. But when I got the results, what we found was that my DHEA was low. That is the hormone, that's the buffer for cortisol that would make, if the cortisol is going crazy, if it's not where it needs to be, let me say that again. Our bodies have a system. My cortisol, or our cortisol, has what's called the DHEA hormone as well in the body, that if the cortisol goes crazy, the DHEA say, hey, catch yourself, and it comes in, and it does what it has to do, so it causes a balance. And so what it showed was my DHEA was low, so it was like when the cat is away, the mouse can play, so my cortisol went sky high. And so when we got my results, he put me on the DHA, which was very simple, but I didn't know. And cortisol, we trigger cortisol by stress. And stress, whether it's environmental, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical. And when I say environmental, it could be you riding on the streets of Nassau, and you go into work, and are you stressing trying to get to work? Listen, you could, and somebody honk at you, and the light thinking about turning, and you robbing them in the car, not even a take that. Cortisol level going up. You get up in the morning, you're sitting on the bed, Jesus, I gotta go to that miserable woman today who makes my life. And I pray none of you are that woman, that staff, pray, that none of you are that menopausal woman, the staff praying about. You sitting there on that bed, that's happening, cortisol level going up. I heard Doc talk about the marathon. Um, One of the things, I used to run the marathon too. And physical stress can be running. I remember with Dr. Gay, when I'd gone to Dr. Gay and I was dealing with heart palpitations and all. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have anything for this explaining it. So I would go park my car where I think it's a Hilton where the Chinese now put a new right at a bay, and I could run to Goodman's Bay and back. By the time I did that, my head would be clear. So running was my escape. When Dr. Gay found that, he said, no, I don't want you to run anymore. I said, you know what? I need to run. I need to run. When usually park my car and I need to run, I need to clear my head. One day I went early on Goodman's Bay, I think it was. I went running early in the morning. And it triggered severe palpitations. I was so afraid, and no one was on the beach. And I started praying, oh God, please don't let me die. Don't let me die. And because no one, I said, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. What I did was, I put my body physically under stress with all of that running. So the cortisol, my cortisol level went up. And I explained that to you because we do a lot of things and we say we're not stressed, but the body recognizes stress as stress. Physical, emotional, environment, it doesn't matter. Stress is stress, so the body will respond. Itchy skin, and I'm gonna come down to the end. So on average, during the first 5 years of menopause, women lose 30% of the skin elasticity. And for the next 20 years, we lose 2% of our skin elasticity thereafter. Your body stops making collagen, you lose fat under your skin, and all of this combined with dryness caused by hormonal changes, causes sagging on the neckline. That's why, we do this. I know I'm not the only one learning those exercises doing them. Causes the sagging the jawline, around the cheeks, fine lines, wrinkles. Oh, happy day, huh? So we have all of these, a thinning skin, etc. Now, I'd like to show this. This lady was my masseuse in Grand Bahama, going through the same thing. I want you to look at her eyes. No, don't cut. I don't know if I can do that red spot, but anyhow, look at her eyes, around her eyes. And this is an oil that we use. It's called Recapture. Look at around her eyes before Recapture. Look at her eyes 1 month after. Look at her eyes 3 months after using our Recapture oil. This is an oil, and let me show you the bottom of her face. And I'll tell you the history with this. This is before. Look at her nasolabial lines. Before Recapture, look 1 month after using it. Look for 3 months. And she too, going through the menopausal transition, and it really had an effect on her skin, and she was really concerned. And she was also married to a younger person, so this meant a lot to her. This is another lady in Grand Bahama. This was a big one for me. This shocked even me. This lady, you could see, look under her neck, and I remember. And what was interesting, hers was about 28 days, and she was consistent. I can tell you one thing: when people are intentional or hungry, Les Brown would say hungry. If you hungry, you could get your results. She was telling me her daughter was laughing. That's never going to work, etc., etc. But her daughter was shocked. I was also shocked as well, because I knew it would work, but I hadn't gotten to see it. The thing about our bodies is that if collagen is declining, you put it back in, the body will respond. Estrogen has been declining, you can put it back in. Now, some persons, we have choices of estrogen. I only work with the natural way of dealing with a woman's body, because I believe it's not a medical condition. Once you understand, you can balance, your hormones can balance. And I work with women in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, and the US who will tell you. And I've seen worst case scenarios where it has worked. And this is the oil that we use. It's called Recapture. This is a formula God gave me. Also, let me just say, you know, you're getting a little older and you don't want to look older. It's like, God help. God knew I was a little motivated. And I had done some studies about a year or two prior with oil, but never used it. And this is one of the oils we carry. It's called Recapture. Muscle and joint aches. I want you to understand it. Many women experience joint and muscle pain and stiffness around the time of menopause that they didn't experience before. Estrogen protects joints. It reduces inflammation. And as a result of estrogen dropping, women experience joint pain. Science says that estrogen is a painkiller in our body. Literally. That's why we could have babies and deal with so much pain. Okay, and we are good. Then we complain and say the man can't take no pain. And now you're going through menopause and you crying. Okay, and we use the turmeric and ginger. Now, I wanted to invite you ladies. One of the things we have is a group called Surviving and Thriving Through Menopause. We have a sip and pain event coming up on June 14th. And we'll talk more about menopause, etc. I'm inviting you ladies to attend. And if you're interested, in the back here, we have something at the table where you can sign up, and we'll let you know once the tickets are available. But our goal is to do things to help women, have more events free of charge to help women. But we won't talk about the weight gain. Okay? Ain't nobody looks like that. Nobody does that. But we do have something called Black Fire, and this person has used it in 15 days. You see the difference. This lady after she had a baby, and this one in the blue, and you see her stomach, etc., because it works on burning fat. You have to take it and you have to be consistent. That's called Black Fire. Okay. Cardiovascular disease. This is another thing in our life. Cardiovascular risk increases as women enter into their 40s and go into the 50s. Just because you're a woman. Just because you're a woman. As women go through the menopausal transition, she has less estrogen, she accumulates more belly fat, which increases after she stops bleeding. I want to end there, and I want to say to women, self-care is so important. I know we so used to taking care of everybody, but if there's one time in your life where you need to take care of yourself, it's during this time. Your body is demanding you take care of it. And when you're having these symptoms, stop saying, pushing it on the table, or it happening for no reason. There is a reason. Menopause happens at a time when self-care is at the bottom of our list. Menopause is a time when women really do need to. You are responsible for you, and you need to make it work for you. And finally, for today, I wanted to offer to you ladies here, one of the things I do in working with women, I do consultations. And I put together protocols for women based on what's going on with you, because every woman's group of symptoms is different from the next woman. And the protocol I design is based on what's going on with you. Normally, it's $95, and I'm offering it just for today for the women here. I'm offering it at a discounted cost of $80. And but you would have to sign up with us in the back. I have set aside 10 slots, and if you want to take advantage of it, you may. And if there's any questions, afterwards. Okay. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope this has been able to help you. Oh, I could just leave this here.
Ladies, you've gotten quite a bit of information. Okay, our next presenter is the chef. Okay, we're going to talk food now. And we have Chef Vanessa Riley, a mother, foodie, professional chef, caterer, and consultant, over 25 years experience in the culinary field. She has education, taught as a professor at the School of Hospitality and Tourism and University of the Bahamas. As a private culinary consultant, she's worked with agencies like the Bahamas Hotel Association and its industry partners. Chef Riley prioritizes philanthropy and community building through the many projects which she spearheaded as the president of the Life at Key Alumni Association and other private coordinated efforts. Let's put our hand together and welcome her as she comes.
Good morning. After all of that, you're probably thinking, oh my God, what do I do? I like to say that I'm presenting the solution. My why. I've recently gotten on this menopause journey through surgical means. A lot of us Black women deal with fibroids, and so I struggled for years, as many women do. And so when it happened, I thought to myself, how come no one told me that this is what I would be dealing with? No one shared with me. The only thing people would say is hot flash. And that really is one of the least of the issues by the time you get around to perimenopause and menopause. And I want to say, in my why, like Patrice, I wanted to do something to help myself as well as other women. Being a chef, being a teacher, really makes me want to not just have the information for me, but how do I get this to other people? And so I took I got certified, and I also am licensed as a Meno chef. There is such a thing now. My job really is to help women. What do you eat? We've been told in this session that it's the choices that we are making that can affect these menopause symptoms. When I understood that food is indeed the medicine, when in Genesis, God tells us the leaves are for the healing, we take that so lightly. But we said the older women didn't tell us, but a lot of them were on bush medicine, so they were dealing with it. They just couldn't articulate to you that this is this and this is that, but they lived better, they ate better, and so they had better coping with mechanisms for these menopause symptoms. And so my Meno chef training really is helping me to understand first what's happening to me, and then being able to translate that into what I eat, what I cook. So I am actually focusing my catering business, a great part of it, on a program that I'm introducing called Nourish, which really is how do we eat to make and mitigate some of these symptoms that we're having. So we really have to understand, and Patrice went over a lot of this, these hormonal changes, the metabolic slowdown, the nutrient needs. And this is the thing that we don't focus on in the Bahamas. We don't focus on nutrient. We don't focus on nutrition at all. We just eat for mouthfeel. You know what I feel like eating? You know what I could eat right now? And a lot of us eat for comfort. All of the issues, you're talking about all these hormonal, the depression, all these things that happen, the stress, we go to our go-to. I don't care what's happening. If you are hit with some stress, I could eat a chocolate bar. There's an instant sugar rush, you need some sugar. There's an instant need for something to calm the nerves, and so we go to our go-tos. And so really this journey is, there are things that you could eat, there are choices that you could make that will mitigate these symptoms, that will help you to have a better quality of life, because after all, that's what we are about now. When you get to be a certain age, it's not about let me accumulate, it's now, how do I live better? And for the first time, we're being forced to live better. Next slide for me, please. So balanced nutrition is important. I have been privileged to travel around the Caribbean with regards to food, and I realized that in the Bahamas, we our diet is so Americanized that we don't eat like the rest of the Caribbean. They eat tons of fruits, tons of vegetables. They eat local, they eat sustainable. We import everything. And I will put a plug right here to say, please support local farmers market if you want to really begin to make these kinds of changes that you need to make. Healthy fats. You know, seed oils. If you can go back one for me, please. And I'm just going to be picking through because some of these things Patrice focused on, but these healthy fats, I really want us to talk about this importance of these omega-3 fatty acids in the body. We really have to move away from seed oils. Seed oils would be your vegetable oil, your canola oil. You need to move to things like avocado oil. You need to move to things like extra virgin olive oil, because you can get olive oil, but everything that have the name olive oil on it is not olive oil. And I would say for women, when it comes to food, research for yourself. Do your own research. What do I need to be doing? What nutrients do I need to focus on? Some of those are these omega-3 fatty acids. So you want to make sure that you're cooking with good oils, that you're not just using what is available, because now all of that nurturing has to go on to you. Lean proteins. This would be your chicken breast. This would be most important for us at this stage in our life, is getting that estrogen back through phytoestrogens. And we get that through plant protein. So now here's your chickpeas. Here are your beans. Here are your chia seeds, your flax seeds. And if you don't know about these things, go and do your research on it. Find out what your body needs so that you can begin to give yourself the things that will help you. In terms of this protein and nutrients, you have fish, salmon, oily fish, sardines, mackerel, and not the canned ones that are full of salt. Look for the best quality ones. And you say, but they cost a lot of money. Well, going to the doctor costs more. Being sick costs more. I could attest. Having a surgery to deal with issues costs more than eating properly. You will see the results of eating properly over time versus being sickness over time. And truth be told, in this country, we recognize if you are elderly, if you are sick, people have no time for you. You feel the drain on your family members if they have to take care of you. And so as we age, let's age well, let's age gracefully. Whole grains and fiber. You know, Patrice just talked about this gut biome and how to keep that stabilized. We need to bulk up. We need fibrous foods to eat. I'm not saying go out there and eat. So now you have another problem with constipation. But here's the thing that I'm learning about food and eating for this time of my life. Everything is balance. Everything is about balance. You need the fiber. You get your oats, quinoa, things like that that bring in fiber in your diet. Include them. Focus on this phytoestrogen, because she showed us when estrogen is depleted, how do you increase it? How do you get it back? Through phytoestrogens, because they mimic estrogen in the body, but you can find them in plants. So vegans, vegetarians, persons like that, your diet, our diet needs to be 50% of your plate needs to be bulk. Another 50% needs to be green. The other 30% needs to be vegetables, needs to be your fiber. And the smallest amount, needs to be protein if you're eating animal protein. The focus should be plant protein, because what you want to do is replace estrogen. If estradiol is the main loss and all these things happen because we're losing estrogen, how do we get it back? We can get it back with food, which means we can change the quality of our lives by what we eat. What we're putting in our mouth is either healing us or killing us. We can move on. So these phytoestrogens, they mimic the estrogen, like soy, flaxseed, and it may be as simple. I have found a tri-seed mix that has hemp, flaxseed, and chia, and I sprinkle that on my salads. I sprinkle it wherever you could incorporate it, begin to incorporate it, because these have the minerals and the nutrients that our bodies need at this time in our lives. And the thing is, you begin to eat like that, you change the dynamic in the house, because we know that we create changes in our homes. So now you're getting your daughters eating better earlier, Because they hear menopause and they go, oh, that's for the old women. Anywhere I go now, I'm sounding the message. Eat better, take vitamins, exercise, because I am a product of when you don't, but change can happen. Calcium-rich foods. I also want to put a plug here for tofu. If you've not had tofu, listen to that. Well, y'all will be happy to know that this Nourish program, we will be introducing tofu in ways that you have not had it before. We poo-poo or look down in our country, because we like meat, on people who eat vegan and vegetarian. Those vegan and vegetarian meals have so much of the nutrients that we need to help our bodies. These calcium-rich foods. If you're going to eat yogurt, Greek yogurt, unsweetened yogurt, dairy, leafy greens, fortified foods to support bone health. Because also, what's happening when this estrogen is gone is, and this is why we were told to use weights, because your bones are also going to be affected. People deal with osteoporosis as a result of menopause. This is how you can bring some of that back into the body. Magnesium and vitamin D. Nuts, and when I say nuts, I'm talking about almonds and walnuts, and try to get them unsalted, because then you don't want to deal with the salt and creation of high blood pressure. And exposure to sunlight. It's so funny because as this melanated skin, we have the biggest issue with vitamin D because we don't like to be out in the sun. We don't want to be hot, we don't want to be, we don't want to be hot, we don't want to be in the sun, but that sunlight is, the more I read up on vitamin D, the more I'm understanding that helps with sleep. You're talking about insomnia, vitamin D. And if you don't get enough sun, I would recommend that you take a vitamin D supplement, because that will definitely be helpful. And the magnesium. The magnesium also helps with sleep. So if you're having issues with sleep before you go to bed, you might also want to take some pumpkin seeds. A little handful of pumpkin seeds will help you to sleep better. Kiwi is also loaded with magnesium and vitamin D. That would also help you with sleep. The next one for me, please. Managing weight. This is a hard one for all of us, and I think Dr. Jackson summed this up so beautifully. If you don't start when you're young, it's very difficult when you're dealing with menopause symptoms to be motivated to go and work out. But even if you walk in your house, you could just walk around your house. If you're doing housework, all of these things are helping us to get in more movement. But that the key to that is mindful eating, because if we could control the eating, everything else will fall in place. And we all know, once you feel better, you start to move more. Mindful eating. Only eating when you're hungry. I pausing right here for effect. Eating when you're hungry. So many times we train our bodies to want what it wants, and we keep giving it what it wants. But that's not necessarily the best thing for us. And I started by saying we're giving it what our mouth feels like, because the taste buds control most of our lives, not what is needed for the body. So this really is about shifting the thinking on food, on the way you see food. Going forward, I remember the first time I heard Patrice, I was in my car driving, and she was on a talk show. And as she was talking, I'm saying to myself, so I am a chef. I could change wait, hold on. Let me hear this woman. I could change what I'm doing, and I could make the food taste good, so I will enjoy it too. I said, okay, I have to do this, because mindful eating is everything. Mindful grocery shopping. Don't go to the store when you're hungry. Don't go to the store when you're hungry. And have a list. And if you are moving about in the day, take a handful of nuts. Take some cranberries. Excellent, excellent. For fiber, for all of the nutrients that your body needs. Take something along with you so you have a little snack in your bag. You're not moving on hungry. Like if I don't eat now, and then you eat the first thing that you could find. Portion control. This is the thing about planning. If you're not prepared to eat well, you're not going to eat well. At this stage of our lives, everything has to be intentional. And that's hard for some of us who like to wing it sometimes. Like, I just toss together something when I have a time. And as a chef, I'd be like, oh, I could just make something. Well, that doesn't always happen. So I end up eating whatever is convenient or available, which is not good for me. And then end up eating too much of what is available. So mindful eating, get your cues, and I will say this now. Calories in is not the most important thing. We were just told about how your body changes and you get this gut. It's not about calories anymore. It's about what you're eating. That's going to make that change. That's going to change and move the scale. Incorporating movement. They actually, the studies say if you move 10 minutes after you eat, it helps with digestion. During menopause, a lot of women deal with irritable bowel syndrome, deals with constipation. If you eat a meal, and I work with clients all the time, wealthy clients, as soon as they eat, everybody gets sneakers on. Oh, we're going to take a walk. I just be like, just people just eat. How they be walking up and down? Until I realize, oh, that's what my body needs. Because let me tell you, they eat the best food because they intend to live long to enjoy their money. What is your motivation for living longer, living better? That's what you have to think about. Not the cost of something, not the cost to me, like I have to get up at 5 and walk, I have to get up. Whenever you could fit it in, you have to do it. Because you have to think about your motivation. Incorporating movement, physical activity. The next slide, please. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because I think we all know what we need to avoid and limit, that we've had too much of processed foods, alcohol and caffeine, excessive salt, and we know in this country that high blood pressure is really a silent killer. So we need to be focusing. When you're eating nuts, the portion control, but try to buy, like I said, unsalted nuts. You don't want to get the ones that, have the extra sea salt, because it tastes better. Because we have to stop eating for the taste bugs. And I say in taste bugs deliberately. Staying hydrated. For the people who say, I don't like water, let me tell you, coconut water is so full of potassium. If you could drink a cup of natural coconut, I say natural coconut water, not the sugared stuff in the store. You're looking for 100% coconut water. That will immediately, the electrolytes from that will hydrate you. You will be able to get the potassium from that. All of these things our body needs in menopause. So we have to start focusing on those things that are important and that will help us. Herbal teas. Back for me, please. Let me just finish up that one. If you can go back, please. Thanks. Herbal teas are also good. I would focus on green teas specifically because green tea is one of the best in terms of the nutrients attached to, associated with green tea as opposed to black tea or some of the other teas. So green tea is going to be better for you. I would say look for different sugar alternatives. I'm trying to use monk fruit now because I'm trying a couple different ones of them. I've also used agave. So start looking for sugar alternatives. Look for salt alternatives. The best salt for us is the Celtic salt or the pink Himalayan salt, which you could begin to incorporate into your diet. Reducing sugary drinks, that goes without saying. Pure water is always going to be the best thing for us. And staying hydrated, especially now that the weather is hotter, more and more water is better for you. Next, please. Create a supportive eating environment. Mindful shopping. Don't go to the store with your children or your friends. You ever find that when you're walking around talking with someone, you're picking up stuff that you don't necessarily plan to pick? Shop with a grocery list. Stick to your grocery list. I was going to go there because if you don't stick to the grocery list, the stress from the bill will also cause you to grab a chip or a chocolate bar on the way out. So stick to, especially with the rising costs. And again, I have to say this in context of the life we are living. Eating better looks on the front to be more expensive. But we always have to think of what the end cost of that is. Your family members losing their mother, loved one, sister, wife, So we have to think about it that way. Planning balanced meals. One of the other things that I would advocate for all of us, and I'm just learning it myself, because for me it felt like, oh, I could always make something. Meal planning and meal prep. I want to camp here for a minute, because if you incorporate this into your daily life, and when I say meal planning, for me, if I buy a chicken, I know if I roast off a whole chicken one day, I can use chicken for 2 days. I can maybe have chicken salad. I can make several different dishes from this chicken. So I look for ways now that I could plan ahead. That chicken is already cooked. And it may mean sometimes if I buy a food store chicken, I can remove the skin, use the white meat, the dark meat for different, I could make shepherd's pie, I could make different things with it so that I'm eating healthy, I'm eating better, but I'm planning ahead. Cutting some vegetables, if you got a lot of carrots, a bag of carrots, cut them up, put them down, so when you need them, there is a snack in the fridge that's available for you to grab. Keep fresh fruit in the fridge. Keep fresh vegetables pre-cut, or even if you want to buy them pre-cut. Keep things that you know your body needs available for you to grab easily. Planning, planning, planning. We used to doing it for everyone. And I tell you, if you're a mother, your whole life is planning. You are the planning extraordinaire. You plan for your family. You get the whole family up. You get them out the door. You get them back home. You get them cooked. You driving home thinking what I can cook. You're always planning. It now needs to be directed to you. It needs to be redirected on each one of us. Building a support system. Having kids come and help with the meal prep. Having grandchildren. This is how you begin to teach them the recipes. And I would say try new recipes. Start to look now that you have this information, now that you have this knowledge, try new recipes. Things that look like, I may not have tried it, but I know flaxseed is good, I know chia seeds. How do I incorporate them? Start looking at new recipes, bring your family along on this journey, because this is you. This is the new you. Whether you understand it, they understand it, this is the new you. Bring them along on the journey. When you're changing your diet and you're incorporating these healthier items, let it be enough for the family to eat. Not one portion and look like I am a martyr suffering through this. Because you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it if you don't enjoy it. You have to make it enjoyable for yourself. Let's move on, please. Long-term nutritional support. Once we incorporate these consistent, healthy habits, we are going to be helping ourselves through this journey. We're going to see this decrease in these hot flashes. We're going to see the decrease in those symptoms. I was reading up recently on warming herbs. These are ones that, like sage, they help with hot flashes. So you could incorporate these things into your diet, fresh herbs into your diet, fresh herbs into your cooking, so that you go away from using the salt and the salt-laden products. Listening to your body. I think this is the biggest one for all of us, nationally and women around the world. We do not listen. If you go to the doctor and the doctor says, when this start, you don't even know. A lot of us don't know because you weren't paying attention. Everybody else has become more important. And then seeking professional guidance when you need it, getting the help that you need to make better choices so that you are the best you could be. That's how you have to see it. And next one, please. And then find out as much as you can. Get online books. I'm a part of this menopause expert, and this out of the UK. And I'm always now, because I'm becoming conscious, reading up, finding out information. What helps, which foods help with what? How do I incorporate this into my diet so I am supporting my body and giving it what it needs? Get the meal planning tools. Find out what you need. Maybe you may need to portion out your meals, have those ready in the fridge. If you're a woman and you're still working and you have to go to lunch, at least by the night before, you should have lunch for the next day ready. Because in the morning, that ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. Prepare the day before. Plan ahead for what you're going to need so that you have what you need available to you to eat. Today, I have provided a sample for everyone upstairs in the back, and I made a quinoa salad. And I really want to talk about why I chose that dish, because you could substitute the quinoa for brown rice or couscous. You could eat it cold, you could eat it hot, you could eat it at room temperature if you wanted. In that, I have pumpkin, which is an anti-inflammatory food. The seeds are packed with phytoestrogens, and I'm recommending to everyone, if you have not done it before, get yourself a little handful of pumpkin seeds to go to bed with, maybe a kiwi about half hour before you go to bed. You're going to begin to see the difference because these foods actually have melatonin in it as well. Quinoa is high protein, and if we are looking to replace animal protein, the ribs, the pork chop, etc., I would recommend quinoa. High in fiber, vitamin B, filled with magnesium. Mushrooms are also in it. It's full of fiber, vitamin B, minerals, potassium, zinc, copper, everything you need to help not just with your physical health, but brain health. We talked about this understanding of what the brain does, but you know, every single thing that God has created has everything that we need in it. We just need to use it, and we need to use it with wisdom and understanding, which we are also admonished by God to seek. It has peppers. Every time you use a sweet pepper, you're bringing in vitamin C. You're supporting your eye health, as Dr. Jackson said to us this morning. It also promotes heart health. So, and add it into your food, start sneaking in these fruits and vegetables into foods that you won't normally put them in. I talked about dried cranberries. Alleviates menopause symptoms. It has high in antioxidants, vitamins, magnesium, potassium, everything that your body needs, you can find naturally. Let's find ways to incorporate that, to bring that in. One of the things that I am going to be embarking on very shortly, and our cards are at the back, you can look, is a Nourish program. And I'm calling it Nourish because that word really resonates for me, because that's what is so important at this stage in our lives, that we are nourishing our bodies. It'll be a meal subscription program where you can order meals for the week. We'll also be doing meal prep, so you can pick up your meal prep from us. So if that's something you think you might be interested in, please grab our cards, give us a call. I am going to be learning more and more about menopause, the effects, not just for me, but for every woman that I encounter, because I understand that this is the new us. We just have to wrap your mind around it. This is the new me. This is a new phase of my life. I've never experienced it before. Before you were a mother, you didn't know how to be a mother. But now a lot of you have adult children, so you did it. The success or failure ratio might be different, but this time, it's for you. This time, it's for you. All that you've given out is now time to get it back. Thank you.
Ladies, you have gotten quite a bit of information today, okay, to take with you. But the one important thing you must remember is the phase of life you're in. Now is the time to pour into yourself. It's not selfishness anymore. You're taking care of you. That is very important. I tell people, I don't take it no more. I do me. I'm sorry, and I make no apologies for it, because we have given and given for many years, and now is the time. And then I have women who come in, pressure, out of control, this and that, and I'm saying to them, why are you working? Why are you working if you're not taking care of yourself? It makes no sense. You're just setting yourself up for them set who going to collect it when you're gone. So as of today, ladies, take care of you. Now I have to do one or two advertising here because we have some sponsors in the back who provided some things. Nature Bounty, okay? Nature Bounty provides a lot of good vitamins for your skin, your hair, your nail. You know, hair thinning is a major problem. Your fingernails are thin. So we need to increase our vitamin intake for a lot of these things. So they have those available. So nature-made vitamin. Tony, you got a picture of this? 'Cause they want to make sure and see, you know, when we have people help to sponsor these events, we have to do. So we got here the nails, okay, for your skin, your hair. You got this one, okay? And then women's multivitamins. We all need, we talked about vitamin D and all, and the sun, yeah. I remember going through cancer, my doctor was like, listen, you have to take vitamin D. And I was a person who stayed outdoor, but we lack it, and a lot of it is found in menopausal women and leads to cancer, believe it or not. So women's multivitamins, very important. And then they gave me, this is the soft gel type for hair and nails. And they gave me, and when I saw this, I was like, isn't this interesting? Advanced menopause relief. It relieves hot flashes, night sweats, sleepless, low energy, anxiety, mood swings, and more. And it's a vegan type. So in the back, you will get one of these in your packet that we're giving to you this afternoon. Try it and see, and if it works, I told my office manager, I'm going to try this, and if this works for me, because between 2 and 4 in the morning, oh, the air conditioner on, 3 fans on, and I am wet, okay? So we all know about that. So if it works, hey, you know, beat it. I want to say thank you to all of you who took the time to come today. Those who have displays in the back, please go to your tables quickly so we can have these ladies come. Question and answer at this point. Yes. You can, while these persons go and set up in the back. Hi. Stand up for us, Miss Lockhart. You come up here, please. Come up, Patrice. Where is, oh, there's a mic. You can go to the microphone if you. Understood.
In the back there also, we have collagen. Now, like I said, everything we do traditional when it comes to menopause is more natural. Because, again, I don't believe that it's a medical issue. There's natural collagen, we have natural collagen, and there are lots of foods as well that has the collagen. What you want to do is to do your own research. And just like Chef talked about, when you get all of these foods that come from all of this, get your collagen powder and get your food list. And you incorporate these things. Again, just like Chef said, the body is different, so we have to deal with it differently. Include it in your food. Sorry, collagen bone broth. If you, yeah, if you can get really high quality bone broth, it's packed with collagen. So you could begin to add that to, if you're making a soup, you can use bone broth. You can even make your own bone broth. If you have chicken bones, if you have beef bones, you want to clean them properly and boil them in cold water. No really mixing them. But strain the water from that. Bone broth, collagen is excellent in that. So that's a good way to incorporate it. And if it's, the cost is minimal, but you get pure protein or pure collagen in the form of bone broth. So that's how you can use it.
And exercise is key. You have to strength train. Yeah, as best you can. And I mean, even if you're not doing weights, you can sit in your chair, get up and get down. You just have to move your arms, your legs. I tell people, even if you don't add weights, repetition. Just sit up and down, move. This is how we build muscle mass.
You're right, it's strengthening the bones, and that is for you. Weight, you must do weight training. It doesn't have to be that crazy weight training.
No.
But that's what helps strengthen bones.
You can ask another question if you need to.
So yeah, I use the water as my place for force. For me, it's easier because it's not putting that pressure on my body with the pain. But okay, I have a lot of questions. However, I'm just going to ask this one. Is there a site that you recommend, or a book that you recommend that may put more in detail, more information? Because we know that blood types, genetics, all of these things play a role in what we're dealing with, right? So something that may work for Susan may not work for me. I can try. I'm taking the vitamins. I'm doing this. I'm taking the omega-3s, and I'm still in excruciating pain. So, is there a site? Is there a book that you may recommend or that we can have that can help us comprehend a little bit more?
Okay, I have a couple of answers to that. a lot of information that we didn't even talk about here that we need to know to add to the bigger picture. The next thing you need, chef, not chef, coach. Yes. Coach Renee Minus. One of the biggest jewels this country doesn't even, a lot of people don't know about. She is the daughter of Ray Minus, senior who just died. Renee Minus also works along with us, and she works with women, menopausal women. She has helped chef can tell you that, excellent. She's even helped women, and I didn't get to talk about who have pelvic issues, who were leaking. She would work with you depending on what's going on with you. So you can put a name in that. I'll make sure I give it to you. Her name is Renee Minus. It's Box Fit Nation. Yeah. She's Cicero Road. Right. She's Cicero Road North. Right down the road from where my Bellows is. Cicero Road, that's at the intersection of Burger Road and Village Road in that area. Cicero North. Yes. She works specifically with menopausal women, and she will customize to work with you.
An issue that affects women going into menopause is autoimmune disease. And so you stay with pain. You live with pain. And a lot of these women have to see internists to manage them. A lot of my running friends now are finding out they have an autoimmune disease, and these girls were running for years, okay? So, as you said, every individual is different. You need to find out what's going on and find that person, especially a doctor though, who can help you manage, because sometimes there is no cure for pain. Depending on what's there's a thing called fibromyalgia, where you're basically living with pain, but you have to manage it as best you can. Okay? There's no cure for it for some people, but it's fibromyalgia. Go and research on that. But autoimmune disease is very rampant going into menopause. So these are things we have to look at and discuss also, right here. All of it is related. It's all related. Bone degeneration. And so you have to kind of find exercises that help to minimize. Some people get relief, some people don't. That's just a fact of life. So you need to, for me, having gone through all the surgeries I live with certain pains. I just try to manage it as best I can, because I know there's no cure for it. So that's like this morning I ran. Oh Lord, my foot was hurting, but I say, keep going. Because when I run or don't run, the pain is there. So we have to manage the things that we're dealing with, because there's no one cure that's gonna get rid of it.
Can I say also for inflammation, it's with the turmeric and the ginger. And get up this here, if we over and over we've seen women take it because it helps with the inflammation. And these are natural things that you can do, and if they help you, then they're good. And like Chef also talks about the food.
And we have to be careful of too much turmeric also. That's the flip side, okay? You cannot consume, let's get the lady in the back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, major one, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. It minimizes, yes. Stand up so I can hear you, please. It's a combination, but you need to be in contact with your medical doctor to advise you, to help you balance. And Agreed. Speak to Patrice afterwards in the back. She will be able to assist you, okay? Any other questions? We're going to move to the back, okay, where the displays are set up and you